our first video. This is the edit window in Pro Tools. I've brought up a project that I'm working on, and we're just going to look at one specific section of this window. So even though it looks fairly complex, there's a lot of things going on. We're just going to focus on one little thing. Let me make this a little bit bigger, and this is a little side note. You can see these little rulers here. If this is bigger, it looks more like a ruler. Those allow you to make your tracks bigger or smaller. Sometimes having something like this is very useful when you're editing a waveform or something like it. But we're really only looking at this track right now. And give it a listen.
And I know she'll be the death of me, at least we'll both be numb. And she'll always get the best of me, the worst is yet to come.
So it's essentially a WAV file of The Weeknd's Can't Feel My Face. If you want to hear a little bit of my remix that I'm doing.
She'll be the death of me, at least we'll both be numb. And she'll always get the best of me, the worst is yet to come. About it, she told me don't worry, no, I can feel my face when I'm with you.
Alright, so I'm still working on that. Nothing too great yet, but different vibe. Okay, so we're just going to look at this section up in the upper left-hand corner called the edit modes. So I'm going to make this fairly big so you can see everything that I'm doing. We have slip, grid, shuffle, and spot. Our top two for making music are going to be slip and grid. I always say edit and slip, place and grid. Shuffle might come in handy at some point as you start to understand and arrange your songs. And spot, probably much less so for the types of things that we'll be doing, but you will get introduced to what it does. So let's get right down to it. Slip mode. I'm going to zoom in so you can see these lines. And these lines are called grid lines. You can adjust the value of the grid lines, meaning how many of them you see, by coming over here, and I'll come back to that again later, to the grid values. They're set up as 16th notes right now. If I make them 30 seconds, you'll see that you see a lot more of them. I can make them 8th notes, you'll see fewer of them. I tend to work in 16ths as my default. Anyways, back to slip mode. As the name infers, the edit modes allow you to edit or manipulate your clips, whether they're audio or MIDI. We'll get into that again later. And the modes dictate how you can manipulate or edit those clips. So in slip mode, you can place your cursor, or this line I'm clicking, in between or on the lines anywhere. And the more you're zoomed in, the more finite, or I should say precise, you can be with your placements. With editing, it's really important. Grid mode only allows you to place your cursor on your grid values. Other DAWs, digital audio workstations, call this snap to mode or something like it, because your cursor or your playback cursor will always snap to the grid value. If you have higher grid values, of course, you have some room in there, but slip mode will always be more precise. Shuffle mode, and I'll do this a quick couple edits here. So what I've done is just, a quick cut. What shuffle mode allows you to do is if you grab a clip, I actually have control over this right now, and I move it all the way to the left. You can see that yellow line is essentially where I'm placing that clip now. What it does, I'm going to let go of my mouse, is it shifts or shuffles the previous clip that was up front to being second. So essentially what you're doing is you're able to reorder your clips while maintaining sync with everything else that comes after it. The first thing that comes to mind in terms of when I would use that is if I had a song arrangement where I had all of my parts already done, or not necessarily all of them, and I had an intro, a verse, a chorus, a verse, two choruses, a bridge, and I'm thinking to myself, I wonder what it would sound like if I put the bridge in between the two choruses, and I could highlight all of the parts within that bridge in shuffle mode, move it over, and all of a sudden my song arrangement's changed, but everything's in sync. I don't need to move anything else because shuffle mode has displaced everything, replaced everything in the proper order. Spot mode is even less useful, I would say, because when you click on a clip, the spot dialog box pops up. And what it's asking you is, well, you've highlighted a clip, where do you want it to go? And right now it's telling me that the starting point is at beat 1 of measure 1, the beginning of the session. If I say, actually, let me just do something before I do that. I'm going to heal those cuts. If I say place this at beat measure 4, beat 1, and click OK, it moves to measure 4. And that can actually be useful. I can see myself doing that. Do I do it? Not that often, but it's how it works. So a little bit about editing itself while I'm here. Or no, nothing about editing right now. Those are the modes, okay? So just remember that. Grid snaps to grid values, cannot go in between. Slip can go in between. Shuffle only allows you to move things. Check it out. Oops. This little bit ends up at the end because I took the beginning and moved it all the way to the end of the song by shuffling it. That took a while. Bam. All right, so those are the modes. Let's call it a day.